Hey, what's going on, guys? So today I'm going to be talking about how I diagnose trouble codes related to the airbag system. Um, so based on my experience, we have two common types of codes. One being resistance too high, um, and the other being short to ground. Those are the usual suspects that we see at Hyundai. So the way that I diagnose it is, let's say that we have uh, passenger side resistance too high, passenger side airbag resistance too high. Um, so the way that you're supposed to do it is, at Hyundai we do have airbag kit, a SRS kit that comes with dummy loads. Um, so the way that you got to do it is you got to unplug. Um, so we have our SRS module, and all of these airbag components are 2-wire circuit. So passenger side PS, PSAB, passenger side airbag. We have 2 wires going to it. So if you have a resistance too high trouble code, what you need to do is you got to access the component that has a trouble code, and then you got to install a dummy load. So common resistances for airbag system is 2.2 ohms and 3.3 ohms. So the airbag module is looking at every component on its circuit, and they have a certain resistance value. That's the way it detects the code. So when the airbag becomes faulty, usually on your live data you'll see that this will show open or the resistance will be super high. So the dummy load, is just a device that has a resistor inside. So you'll have two options, 2.2 and 3.3 ohms. So then you'll go to your SRS live data and compare the passenger side airbag resistance to the driver side. If it says 3.3, then you grab your 3.3 ohm dummy load, and you're going to install the dummy load in place of the airbag, the actual airbag. You clear the code. Excuse me. A little Zen popping. You clear the code, and if the code goes away, then you know that the airbag is faulty. If the code stays, then you know that the airbag is not the problem, because you're putting the exact resistance value that the airbag module wants to see. So that's the way that it works for. That's the way that I diagnose it. If you install the dummy load and the trouble code goes away, then the airbag is bad. If the code is still there, then you gotta dig deeper. And then another type of code that's pretty common with Hyundais is a short to ground code. Short to ground. So we'll take driver side airbag short to ground. So this is a little bit different. If you want to diagnose it properly, you have your airbag module, 2 wires to your driver's side airbag. What you need to do is you can't grab your meter and start testing voltages and resistance values if both components are plugged in, or else you're gonna set it off. the voltage inside of the meter is enough to set off airbags. So the proper way to do it is you have to unplug both components. When I do that test for a short to ground, I'm unplugging both connectors on the airbag module. I don't want to risk blowing up the airbags and looking like an idiot. So your airbag module is completely unplugged, 2 connectors, 3 connectors, whatever it is, and then you're unplugging your component. So now that your components are unplugged, you're going to be setting your meter to the horseshoe. The first test that I do is black lead to good known chassis ground. So black lead chassis ground, doesn't matter which end you're testing as long as the both components are unplugged. Black lead to chassis ground, red lead to 1 wire. Should be OL, open circuit. Okay, that wire is good. Then we go to the other wire, OL. So the OL means that that wire is not touching ground anywhere along the way from end to end of the circuit, which is a good thing. So we already determined that both wires are not shorted to ground. The next thing I do is black lead on 1 wire and my red lead on the other. When we're doing this test, we're ensuring that the 2 wires are not touching together. You should read OL when you do that. So if you come to a point where your wiring is testing good and you install the dummy load, and the code didn't change, you clear the code comes right back, the SRS pops up the codes right away. So you already installed your dummy load, you test your wires to ground and to each other, and there is no ground. The only possibility is here. Internal short. Internal short inside of the SRS module. This is pretty common with 2017 Hyundai Tucson. So that's the way that I determine if the module is bad. Yeah, those are the two most common types of codes, short to ground or high resistance. Dummy load for sure. Let's say that you're a DIY guy in your own garage, or you work at a mom and pop shop, or your dealership doesn't have dummy load kit. All you gotta do is go on Amazon and order some resistors. So if you can find a 2.2 ohm and a 3.3 ohm resistors on Amazon, go ahead and order those. At the end of the day, the dummy load tester is just a resistor. So if you have the trouble code, instead of putting the dummy load, all you're doing is the resistor comes like this. You have 2 ends. The resistor's in the center. So all you're gonna do is put the resistor in line with the 2 wires, clear the codes, rescan it, and see if the codes are still there. So you can order them on Amazon. I believe if you could find something at least close, so if you could find like a 2 ohm and a 3 ohm, I think that would be good too. So you can make your own dummy load resistors as well. The most common trouble code we have with airbag systems, and a lot of the Hyundais have a warranty extension. You're gonna have trouble code B1346 or B1481, which is a DAB resistance too high. So for this, it would be a clock spring. A lot of our vehicles have a clock spring warranty extension. So instead of 60,000 miles, they extended it to, I think it's 15 years, 100,000 miles, or just 15 years in general. Don't quote me on that, but a lot of Hyundais do have this extended warranty. So the way that you test that is, so your steering wheel obviously is able to turn and keep contact with the airbag via the clock spring. It's a band type harness, so it's wound up inside of the clock spring. So your horn button, your steering wheel buttons, your driver airbag, all that stuff, your horn goes through the clock spring, and that's the way that the steering wheel is able to stay in contact with the wires and still be able to be turned. So it's a band type of a wire harness. So it's a 14, I think it's a 4-channel. It's a 4-channel airbag circuit. So you have 2 connectors. I believe it's a high and a low. So the way that I test it is, you're gonna check the actual resistance on these 2 connectors and see if it's within spec. So I don't remember the spec by heart. So if your spec across these 2 wires is 3 ohms and you measured 5 ohms, then your clock spring is faulty. I don't think I've ever replaced a driver airbag in my career, so it's been 15 years. It's always the clock spring. And like I said, most of the Hyundais do have an extension on it for trouble codes B1346, B1481. And speaking of clock springs, if your horn doesn't work, or your left side or right side steering wheel controls don't work, I'd be looking at the clock spring as well. Hope this video makes sense to you guys, and I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.